Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Movie Knights Roundtable live. It is me, Dalton Burdett, with the amazing Nick Iricchio. Nick, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, buddy.
Great, great. Glad to see you. Good to be here as always. And guys, today's going to be a really fun show. And if you're new here, I kind of want to explain how our little show works and how our community works. If you're watching us live and you want to put in a little chat into the live chat, we'll pop you up onto the screen like I just showed here, and we will make you part of the conversation. We love, our little community here. We love interacting. If you feel so inclined to give us a super chat, please don't feel like you have to. But if you do, we'll obviously take that as priority over the other live chat questions. But please join in. Please have fun. We have so much to talk about. And when I say so much, it's really just so much of one thing. We only have one main topic, the box office, and a brief follow-up here at the beginning. But either way, it's going to be fun. I'm excited. Nicholas, are you ready?
Let's do it.
Thank you, buddy. Let's go over to your beautiful PowerPoint here. By the way, I'm
Or in
loving.
honor of Revenge of the Fifth, should I say, do it.
Ooh, okay. I like where your head's at. Gotta say, I'm loving the new outlook on the PowerPoint, by the way. Our first story, like I said, is a follow-up from the last episode where we talked about a bidding war for Jeremy Saulnier's next film. That's the director of Rebel Ridge. Well, according to the Insider, A24 has won that bidding war, and they will be the distributor of the next Jeremy Saulnier film. That's very exciting to me because, I'm happy that he gets to get a nice theatrical release. His past two films were distributed by Netflix, so I'm very curious to see how that film goes. Just very briefly here, Nicholas, what are your thoughts on A24 winning these rights, and does that excite you at all?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was out of all the contenders that they gave, if it wasn't going to be with Netflix, I kind of anticipated A24 because I believe his film Green Room
Mm-hmm.
was actually made and distributed by A24. So he already has a partnership and a working relationship with them. And I think since the time of Green Room, A24 has only grown both in size and reputation. So I think that it was a smart choice and a great choice. So looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to watching Rebel Ridge finally.
Yes, please do. It's a great film. Anyone who hasn't watched Rebel Ridge, you will love it. Please do so. So, with that down, guys, what do you think about A24 winning the bidding war for that film? Does that excite you? Does it make you look less excited, more excited? Let us know in the comments as we move on to our main topic story here. 2 minutes in, getting to the main topic. That's new for us. So, guys, the Wall Street Journal just did an incredible story about Marvel Studios, but specifically about Kevin Feige, and about how something that we've kind of known all along and we reported here on the show is that there was a period of time after Endgame and before now where Kevin Feige did not have the same power and authority that he used to have, and how he was really kind of stretched incredibly thin, and we would kind of give what we knew was fact versus what we, thought, our speculation versus what we had heard, back and forth, yada yada. Well, the Wall Street Journal broke it all down in an incredible and long article, so you're going to get several PowerPoint things with this article here. And it's, Nick, is it fair to say that this article is a pretty eye-opening doozy?
Yeah, a lot's actually revealed about the mentality, the behind the scenes, and just sort of where we're at, and I think there's some positives and some negatives to come along with it.
And I'm sure we will talk about all of them along the way because, guys, it is time to dive in to our main story here of the Wall Street Journal piece on Kevin Feige. So, in the article, the kind of headline, the top of it is Disney wanted more Marvel, now it wants less. And Nick did an excellent job kind of taking through the bullet points in the article because you have to create an account to read it, which we have the link. I highly encourage everyone do go read it. However, understand that not only do you have to make a free account, but then they make you do all these fucking questions. It was really annoying to get access to this article, but it's really good. So if you want to read it, please do so. Anyway, some bullet points here. Marvel started to realize that watching the shows and movies is homework and not entertainment. It began to overwhelm and alienate viewers. Output requirements reduced resources and diluted quality, and that studio head Kevin Feige is leading an internal overhaul of the studio. That's kind of the overview of what we're going to be talking about here. And before I kind of dive into those specifics, Nick, just hearing those bullet points, what kind of piques your interest?
I think just the dilution in quality and the alienation of viewers, I think it shows something that is sort of present throughout the article is that they were very aware of everything that was happening and how everything that was coming out was being perceived, how it was being received. But there was that timeline of like, oh, well, we need to get it out anyway. So that explains sort of the quality, uh, like the whatever the word is, dilution in quality.
Mhm.
So I think it was just sort of a mess of that, and it just kind of shows that they were trying so hard to just push through, and come out the other end. And it looks like now we're finally, hopefully, getting to that point.
Yes, it was nice to see some self-awareness on that end, and Morgan Bernard adds homework for sure. And listen, a lot of people were feeling that way. It was a lot of content, which I'm sure we're going to get into here in just a second. Now, the article points out that the first test of the Overhaul began actually with Thunderbolts. This was kind of the first film post Kevin Feige getting all of his power back to kind of reshape everything. We do know there were some big creative overhauls on Daredevil Born Again as well, and they did what they could with Captain America 4, but, it might have been too little too late on that, which we're going to get into other things being too little too late. Early sales indicate a $7 to $75 million opening, which we will get to at the end with the box office. Reviews have been largely positive, which may help boost sales for Fantastic Four. And then here's what I think is really important. Feige declined to interview, but info from dozens of interviews with Marvel employees or those who have done business with the studio is what is the article's being based on. When they reached out to Feige, he was like, I don't have time for this shit.
He said, I'm already stretched thin, and you want me to do an interview?
About how I'm stretched thin? I think I'm good.
Yeah.
I think I'll just go back to what I'm doing.
But I wanted to include this stuff just to give some greater context of how much is sort of riding on Thunderbolts and where that is sort of lying in the grand spectrum of previous Marvel releases, just to kind of show the one quality differentiator and also just the box office differentiator as well, and how those sort of relate to one another.
Of course. Going back into the article here, during Marvel's heyday in the 2010s, Feige was heavily involved in film development. This is no secret for anyone who's followed Marvel. This included involvement in the editing process, making significant changes and ordering new reshoots. Again, not unheard of. The article then mentions that Thor: The Dark World included 35 days of reshoots, which is a lot of days, and that's when most films shoot their principal photography. And that Marvel films between 2010 and 2019 grossed an average of $1 billion, which is fucking insane. These films were overseen by a small team of creative executives known as the Parliament, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the Parliament is mentioned in the book, the MCU book that came out last year. Oh my gosh, the name of the book's leaving me, but I read it. It's fantastic. It's written by Joanna Robinson, but it's a great book, which, by the way, they have to make a sequel to that book now with all the shit that we're about to learn from this article.
The Reign of Marvel Studios.
The Reign of Marvel Studios. Thank you. Something that I want to point out here, and I'm sure I'll go individually to you as well, is some of you might be thinking, wow, Thor: The Dark World is the worst film of the Infinity Saga, and they had 35 days of reshoots. Didn't do much to help it. I think that might be the wrong point of view. I think the point of view here is how much worse was Thor: The Dark World before they had to do 35 days of reshoots on it. That's something.
There's a great quote in the article that I didn't put in, but it was from Louis D'Esposito, so one of the long-time executives at Marvel Studios. He said he had a recurring joke with Kevin Feige that was, we can fix any movie if we shoot it again. So it kind of goes, and I think it speaks to that Marvel was willing, there's the joke now of like, of course the Marvel movies undergoing reshoots, but that's been there since its inception, really.
Mm-hmm. And to think about it from a big studio perspective, Marvel, I mean, they were not the first people to do reshoots, let's be very clear on that, but they were one of the first major studios to incorporate that into the schedules with actors, like banking on reshoots, so that way, as a big studio, not many studios will watch a film and go, oh, here's how we can fix it, let's spend the money. They pre-plan to spend that money to make adjustments in films, and some of the best moments in the MCU came from reshoots, which is, part of their strategy at the time. Diving back into the article here, with Disney Plus on the horizon, Disney's strategy became expansion. Feige obliged due to zealousness to tell more stories and desire to be seen as a team player, which I'm going to get into here in a second. A pair of executives oversaw each show, with Feige having final say on every significant creative issue. But more shows led to more and more decisions each day, which of course will lead into some of the problems here in a minute. But before we dive into that, Nick, one of the things that stood out to me in this article was Feige obliged because he wanted to feel like a team player.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that says a lot. That says a lot of things. One of the things that says to me is that Kevin Feige was either A, wanting to get promoted in some capacity. I know that we had talked about before in other podcasts as well, talked about that maybe he wanted Alan Horn's job, which is just the head of all of live action film at Disney, which would be interesting. But around this time is when word broke out that Kevin Feige was developing a Star Wars film with Michael Waldron. Do you think part of it was like, hey, if I'm able to do all this shit for you, you guys will let me make a Star Wars movie? And then if that, of course, whole thing eventually ended up falling on its face. But I'm not surprised to hear the team player thing, considering I wonder what reputation he had before of going past Ike Perlmutter and going to Alan Horn and Bob Iger and being like, you got to get me away from this motherfucker, man. I can't work with him. And just trying to do all those things. I was just very curious to hear that part of the article specifically.
I was too, and I mean, it really seems like it was really coming top down, because I think at the time too, this is sort of the beginning of Iger kind of getting his hands back into things. So it honestly doesn't shock me, especially wanting Disney Plus to be a success, because the streaming phobia, right, that's exists and is prevalent with every major studio. Disney was no different from it. So it doesn't shock me that he sat down Kevin Feige and probably Kathleen Kennedy and said, listen, for this to succeed, it's on you two. I need Star Wars shows and I need Marvel shows to get people onto this platform.
Yeah.
So it makes, and he goes, and we can't be having a series a year. We need a few. We need like one each quarter. We need people entertained constantly that want to keep and stay on the app with it.
And I think a lot of that was also right when Chapek came in too, because for Timeline, around 2019, when Endgame came out, and it was right before the pandemic, that's when Bob Iger was retiring. And one of the things he wanted to retire with was an incredible box office year. And if you look at Disney's box office performance that year, holy shit, did they kill it. But he was also launching Disney Plus, and his legacy as he retired is, I had the best year at the movies and I'm launching Disney Plus. So it makes sense that Feige and Kathleen Kennedy would want to oblige Iger at that point, because they all had a good working relationship. But when Iger did retire and Chapek came in, make something for Disney Plus came into, you're going to make all kinds of shit for Disney Plus, which is where we now fall.
Well, yeah, because we had, right at the front, you had WandaVision, Loki, and Falcon and Winter Soldier, which were all solid, even by, I mean, WandaVision was fantastic, and I was very entertained by Loki, and even Falcon and the Winter Soldier was still better in some way, shape, or form than a lot of the ones during the Chapek era. And
it's heavily rumored that show had to be reworked for COVID because there was a subplot involving spreading a disease. So it's they already had a lot of stuff to do there. That's also where a lot of the problems started as well, because they were still making TV shows like they were movies at that point. But, moving on to the next part of the article here, and this is the most relatable part of the whole thing. Securing time with Feige proved to be difficult. Weeks were spent on work that proved irrelevant once Feige weighed in. They had little to no time to implement changes, and many staffers resorted to chasing down Feige in the halls of Marvel. We have all been there, where we're trying to get something done at fucking work, and you're just waiting outside the boss's office like they're going to come out of that fucking thing eventually, and I'm going to catch them, and we're going to be able to go in and do what we need to do. And it's just so funny that even at Marvel, they had to kind of dive into that. And something else that I wanted to point out is when it says weeks were spent on work that proved irrelevant once Feige weighed in, what the article dives into when you read the full thing is, when they were doing all of these Disney Plus shows and all of these movies at the same time, Feige obviously has huge creative input. He's kind of his universe that he shepherded, and he's really talented in that way. And so everybody, wants Feige's input. That's how it was in the Infinity Saga. That's how it was now. The problem is, by the time, I'm just going to use this as an example of emails. I'm sure it's more complex than emails. Let's say the Miss Marvel team emailed Kevin Feige about an issue they needed, but his inbox is full of all these projects that he needs to get to. By the time he got to the Miss Marvel email, that shit was wrapped, and there was no time to implement the change. And I'm just using Miss Marvel as an example. It's not in the article, but it's just that's the kind of stuff that was going on. There were people literally had to catch him in the hallways. What are your...
to imagine some She-Hulk staffer running down the halls of Marvel going can she twerk? Can Daredevil do the walk of shame? And can I make you a robot wearing a hat? And him just going, yes, yes, and why would a robot wear a hat?
Yes, oh my God, that's still one of my favorite fucking stories. That's so good. We'll have to retell it at the end of the show. Moving on, what was once one of the more frugal studios began to have a major spending problem. Yeah, no shit. Early 2020 series cost more than $100 million and approached $200 million. This due to the inclusion of A-list actors and costly visual effects, which, as we know, was kind of just the new age of streaming television that you had, this quote-unquote event TV, where it takes years between seasons and they cost so much and they cut the episodes down because they're trying to make them all like movies. And that this isn't just a Disney Plus problem, but they were a huge early pioneer in creating that problem for sure. That's something you see all the time. And moving on again, this is when, we start to catch up to closer to now. Viewers began to complain that there was too much content and that it was all begin to feel subpar. Fans rejected big budget event series like Secret Invasion because it was a piece of shit. And shows the company was proud of, such as Miss Marvel, good show, failed to attract many viewers. Their biggest theatrical hits were Spider-Man No Way Home, Deadpool and Wolverine, and Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, which were nostalgia plays tying up old stories. So you can kind of see the position that they were in there, Nicholas. Mm-hmm. Not exactly a fun position to be in. What are your thoughts when you kind of see that breakdown there?
Well, one, I think that not only is Secret Invasion probably the worst Marvel Studios project, I think it's just one of the worst things produced.
Correct.
But I think it makes sense. It's sort of like why would people come back if they're not? Why would I flock to Miss Marvel if I don't even know if I'm ever going to see her again? Luckily, we did in the Marvels and stuff like that. But if you're sort of a Marvel casual fan, logging on to Disney Plus, what's enticing you to watch this? And then I think it was also at the time one of those things, right? Like you said, with an inbox piling up. That's how I felt. Back when you would do like DVR recordings of like Law and Order, and you're like, oh man, I have 20 episodes of Law and Order to catch up. And then I'm like, now this just feels like homework more so than enjoyment. I personally have not watched the last season of Walking Dead, and I still plan to eventually, but I've probably delayed it so much longer than I needed to because now I'm like, oh man, it just feels like homework at this point. Mm-hmm. So now imagine that across so many different series, and I'll keep with Walking Dead. I'm not doing the spinoffs because, again, it feels like too much. I feel like I can't just do one. I feel like I have to do all of them.
Yeah, no, exactly. We really aged ourselves there with the DVR reference. That's a deep cut.
We did, but I mean, it does make sense that the people went to the one. It makes sense for the people that went to the ones that they knew, right? Spider-Man: No Way Home had all the nostalgia play from Tobey Maguire, from Andrew Garfield, from Willem Dafoe, that whole cast. Deadpool and Wolverine going back to the X-Men love. Hugh Jackman coming back. People love the character of Deadpool, so it makes sense that their heavy hitters hit heavy, but you can't just rely on those guarantees all the time.
No. And eventually you'll lose that faith with the audience, which is what we're going to get into right here. And we figured at the time that this was going to be a big game changer. Little did we know how much of a game changer this actually was. And it goes into something that you and I have also talked about before, which I'm going to get into here in a second. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania flopped, which was critical since it featured the next big bad, Kang the Conqueror. Worried that they created a no new fans club since stories were tied up in so many different projects, Feige and Disney CEO Bob Iger began to scrutinize the costs and creative choices closely, even delaying Blade while equipment was being shipped to begin filming. Guys, that's how fucking close we were. Blade was right there.
Like, I didn't realize we were at that point with Blade. I thought it was just like, we're close, but we're not quite there yet. Like the fact that they were shipping equipment to a set to begin filming is just crazy to me.
And what's crazier, though, with this context, I'm glad they didn't start filming Blade because we don't want Blade to end up like some of these other projects have, Like, it's just something you don't want to see. And, the self-awareness to say that they were creating a no new fans club, that's something that I experienced in my everyday life. Like, primetime MCU is when I was in high school and in early college. And getting a new MCU fan was super fucking easy because they were the big thing at the time. They were making all this money and everyone genuinely loved them. I've tried to get people at my current day job to start the MCU, and immediately, every time I bring it up, it's just like, man, I don't even know where to begin. I feel like there's so much shit. Like, it just feels like such a commitment. And it's just like, that's the vibe that they were giving off. Like, I know it's anecdotal, but I saw it firsthand. It's just something that I saw all the time. And it also came to a point where Marvel, the MCU, gotten so much into the pop cultural zeitgeist that, like, my mom would text me and be like, "Oh, when's the next MCU movie come out?" And that eventually faded after
Yeah.
like during phase 4. Like eventually my mom stopped caring. She would just say, "Hey, whenever one's good, tell me and we'll go see it." And it was just like, all right, that's
What's the
kind
thing?
of.
And I think it goes to like the quality of the characters and the quality of the story that you're telling. Because if you look at something like the Marvels, right, you have to have seen essentially Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel, and WandaVision. And a little bit of well, I guess Secret Invasion was after the fact, but you needed a bit of that. And then looking at the Thunderbolts, you needed to watch several movies and several TV shows to be caught up with it. Going
Mhm.
back pretty far as well, because Valentina's been popping up for quite some time. She even popped up in Black Panther too.
Yeah.
So I think that this movie was one that could have definitely felt like homework. The way that to me, Captain Marvel, the Marvels, one of them, the way the Marvels did, but I didn't get that with Thunderbolts because they knew that the characters were strong as individuals and
Mhm.
didn't need to rely on like that past storytelling and homework because the movie wasn't that interconnected event film. It was just bringing these characters that you may or may not have seen and did it in
Mhm.
a way that if you hadn't seen what they're from, you're still caught up. John Walker is someone they gave the Captain America shield. Didn't work. He's a crazy person.
Yeah.
I think they set up each individual character fairly well in that.
No, I think so too. I think you nailed that right on the head. And speaking of the Marvels, the article goes on that the Marvel's filmmaker Nia DaCosta received little attention from Feige. Once Quantumania bombed, he became much more involved in that film, and the Marvels costing $300 million became Marvel's biggest bomb, grossing only $206. $300's a bit of a high price tag, but it horrifically bombed. Let's not downplay that. And
The
this.
article may have said close to 300.
Okay, I gotcha. But it's also one of those things where like I just feel bad for Nia DaCosta. Like in that situation, like how do you go on from that? Like you feel like, man, they're leaving me alone. This is pretty cool. And then suddenly everyone gets cold feet and then they're all over your stuff. Like I'm sure. Now, granted, I'd like to think that Kevin Feige being involved made the film better, but coming from a perspective of being worried, that's when you tend to make things worse. Like when you come in like with the wrong mindset. So I don't know. I don't know. Moving on here. This is something that book I mentioned earlier also dove into. The Parliament plans a retreat every fall to plan the future of Marvel. 2023's retreat was somber, movies and shows not working, and the studio laying off employees for the first time. They discussed if they could salvage Avengers The Kang Dynasty, which was announced at Comic-Con that summer, and they talked about pivoting the TV strategy to have stories divorced from the MCU, which I'm going to get into in a second. Ultimately decided to cut back on TV production, which we are now seeing. Everything coming out now was shot like 2 to 3 years ago, like Ironheart and Wonder Man. Like they're just catching up now. Here's a couple things I want to get into with this one specifically. One, you and I talked about that, yes, the Jonathan Majors situation did not help the whole Kang thing, but if Ant-Man had made $1 billion, they'd just recast that role. You and I would both say, like, the primary reason they're going away from Kang is because people just didn't give a shit. Like, that's kind
It's
of
just
what
not
happened.
working.
Exactly.
You let Ant-Man defeat him, and I'm supposed to believe he's a threat to the Avengers?
Yeah, and when you have a more compelling version of that on your Disney Plus show, it's a bit of a mistake, which I thought the Loki series was great, but like now I feel that's a nice contained story rather than something bigger. And the point where it says they talked about pivoting TV strategy to have stories divorced from the MCU, that was the moment Feige was cool with Daredevil being canon. That's exactly when that happened. It's because he was like, yeah, I guess, if we want to not make it as required, let's just embrace that and go forward,
Yeah, I mean, I think it becomes a thing, and you see a lot of people criticizing, like Thunderbolts, like what are all these other heroes in New York up to when shit's hitting the fan? Now, granted, I think that you're talking what maybe like an hour, so I get it in that regard. But there's so many different questions. Like Fisk has an anti-vigilante task force in Daredevil Born Again and is the mayor of New York. So it does feel weird when there's not a reference to that when you have a bunch of vigilantes running around saving the day in New York. But I guess now, things could change in that regard. But I don't know. It just seems like there's some loose interconnectedness that needs to tighten up.
Yeah, for sure. And the article also goes on to say that next year, Marvel will only release 1 or 2 live-action streaming series annually, which I'm okay with as long as one of those series every year is a season of Daredevil, then you can get one extra one. They've also ordered some multiple seasons to the stories that can continue without crossing to the big screen. As I mentioned, Daredevil, he just can't get his fucking due other than that one appearance in Spider-Man. And a senior exec is overseeing TV so Feige can focus on film, which I believe that exec is Brad Winderbaum, if I'm not mistaken, which he's been doing a really great job amongst all this shit. I'm actually a big fan of his.
I wonder if we're going to start seeing previous shows get picked up, or if it's something like a moving forward. Like, are we actually going to get strong development on a Moon Knight season 2, on an Agatha All Along season 2? You know, are these things, or is it looking ahead a Wonder Man season 2, or looking even further ahead to, I don't know what shows are on the docket, you know, live action coming up, but, you know, are we looking more to that?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. It really is. Are you going to finally make the fucking Hero for Hire show that I've wanted you to make for over 10 years? Just please make that show. Also pointed out here, Marvel's top priority is the next 2 Avengers films. That makes sense. In 2024, execs decided to dump Kang and brainstorm a better antagonist for the Avengers. Feige had been talking to Robert Downey Jr. for over a year about returning to the MCU, discussing him playing Doctor Doom, but not set on when or in what. Concluded Doom was the answer to their Avengers problem and renamed Kang Dynasty to Doomsday. And I was in that room in Hall H when that happened, and let me tell you, it was pretty fucking awesome. It was pretty fucking awesome.
See, what I found this to be the most interesting part was that Feige had been in constant conversation with Robert Downey Jr. prior to even the pivot away from Kang, whether that was in an Iron Man capacity, but they said it was like talking about an Iron Man return, or even just him playing a different character like Doctor Doom. So I thought that was cool. Maybe they were even kicking the rock down the road, you know, maybe they were looking more ahead to, like, maybe he's in the Fantastic Four movies as their big bad, and then just kind of expanding that more, like, oh, we can maybe make this work. So I thought that was interesting that Robert Downey Jr. was kind of always sitting there on the bench waiting in that conversation. But I mean, I guess it seemed like the timing worked out. Whether or not that's for the better, I don't know. But it seemed like an easy merriment of projects, and I'm sure Robert Downey Jr. headlining 2 Avengers films gave him a nicer payday than whatever they were going to be doing down the line with him.
Oh, yeah, and, you know, Feige talking to Robert Downey Jr. for over a year before making Doom happen just goes to show you, even when my dude is drowning, even when he can barely breathe, even when he is not caught up and is not being able to put his input, my dude is playing 3D chess, bro. He's like, maybe I should reach out to Robert and just fucking chat and be like, hey man, how's it going? Blah, blah, blah. Like, that dude was he had a card hidden in his back pocket, ready to go in case shit hit the fan. And when shit did, he played that card. He had it ready. I just find that funny.
I mean, I think the biggest thing to take away from all this, though, is that I think part of the issue, too, is on Feige not feeling comfortable or willing to let go of some of that control. And it seems like he is ultimately learning that lesson to some regard, to course correct. But it seems like a lot of issues were also caused by just that miscommunication of just like, I need the final say, I need the creative input on it. For better or worse, you know, I think his input's probably solid most of the time there, you know, but I think ultimately that was something that probably also hindered a lot of it as well. I don't want to just blame the executives in Disney, you know, fully for
right. Yeah, no, I got you. The pivot also included bringing back the Russo brothers to direct. This proved costly, but Feige likes to go back to people he trusts, especially in times of urgency, and this was indeed an urgent time. Downey was revealed as Doom at Comic-Con in 2024. Like I said, I was there and it ruled. At the Thunderbolts premiere, director Jake Schreier said when he first started at Feige, said, make it different. And Marvel has reverted back to its original strategy, as if the past 5 years had been a bad dream. That is some TV trope shit right there. And Feige, and then Feige being Feige, because you can't just leave something be without dropping something else. This motherfucker has said he has an expansive vision for the MCU, including a 10-year plan for the X-Men, which are set to appear in Doomsday. Kevin, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. You're back, baby. I love it. I'm loving you back. Because we've been saying all along that we think Feige might retire after Secret Wars because his career is coming full circle back to the X-Men, and he's probably going to launch a new X-Men and retire. It doesn't look like it. It looks like he's like, I will not let my legacy be that fucking multiverse saga. We're gonna fucking turn this around.
Yeah.
He is not fucking leaving. That's the vibe I'm getting from Feige right now.
And I think going back a slide too about the going back to people he trusts in times of urgency, and I think that was why you were able to get like something like a Sam Raimi Doctor Strange too, because I feel like that it was something and that was sort of his version of letting go a bit, was just like, I know that Sam can make a movie. You know, I know he can handle a big budget like this. I know what kind of product I'm going to be getting. Like, just go, you know. And I think that's evident, especially with bringing the Russo brothers back, 'cause he knows he can kind of just let them go, and he can just sit back and watch and voice up when he needs to.
And something that I've noticed, and like, he has been noticeably absent on the press tour for Thunderbolts. And some people took that as an interpretation of like, does he not like the movie? No. I think he is behind that monitor on the fucking Doomsday set like a hawk. He is like, I'm here to make sure this movie's fucking good. I don't have time to go promote Thunderbolts right now. I got other people to do that for me. I'm here to make sure that this shit is going well. And like, I genuinely believe that that's what he's doing, and that's why that's happening. But yeah,
I think so, and I think that it's I think the X-Men's interesting. Like, are we going to start seeing? Are we still going to be seeing, you know, past MCU characters recurring in that, or are we just going to move fully to like some sort of a mutant saga, you know, where it's just 10 years of just X-Men, no other characters? I think that's going to be interesting.
As someone who is a massive X-Men fan, I don't hate that. I'd be cool with that. That'd be fine. I doubt it'll be solely mutants, but I think they will be the focus. I know what you're about to say, but go ahead.
Shang-Chi too. I'm just saying, I like the X-Men less than you, but I still like them. But man, if that costs me Shang-Chi too, I'm gonna be upset.
I feel like we're still gonna get Shang-Chi 2 after Spider-Man 4, and I also think that you need to watch X-Men 97.
5 and 6.
Maybe, but you need to watch X-Men 97. I'm getting sick of this. I'm getting sick of you having not watched it.
I'll give it a go.
Thank you, for the love of God. But yeah, listen, I think that Kevin Feige's back. He's back with a vengeance. He wants to make sure that these next two Avengers films are great. His first film after his creative overhaul was Thunderbolts, and I really loved Thunderbolts. I like it more and more each day. I sit with it and think about it, and I think it's a really good movie. And I think it's time that Marvel really shows its guns again and shows that it's here to stay and not be dicked around like it was before. But guys, the important question is, what do you think about this Wall Street Journal article? What do you think about this Kevin Feige creative overhaul? Do you think it's going to be beneficial for the studio? Do you think it won't be? Let us know in the comments as we move on to the box office.
Box office.
Actually, one comment to pull up. My fiance, Hannah, puts in the live chat, Nick hasn't watched. Yeah. Can you fucking believe that?
Correct.
It's unbelievable.
Correct.
It's
Hold
unbelievable.
On. Who is? Hold on. Hold on. I will find it.
I'm so curious as to what this guy's got up his sleeve.
Call me Boulevard Trask the way I be hating mutants.
Oh my God. Or Senator Kelly, or there's so many people you could use. But anyway.
Yeah, any of them.
Box office. This may come as a shock to you, but we were both wrong in our top 5. However, we both got the first 2 right, and you got number 5 right. So I guess that makes you the technical winner. Here were the predictions we had, and you can see the green means correct, the red means incorrect. Well, we both got the top 5 movies, just the placements were a bit off in what we were trying to discover. So let me pull up the actual numbers now. Ladies and gentlemen, your box office of last week goes as follows. Thunderbolts, asterisk, came in first, making $74.3 million in its opening weekend. Sinners came in second, only dropping 28% from week 2 to week 3 after only dropping 4% or 5% from week 1 to week 2. This movie has hella legs. We love to see it. $33.1 million in its third week. A Minecraft movie dropped 40% from week 4 to week 5, making another $13.7 million. That's still a moneymaker. The Accountant 2 made $9.4 million, dropping 61%. You really fucking hate to see that. That was in its second week, and Until Dawn in its second week made $3.8 million, dropping 52%. Now, Diving into these numbers more specifically, Thunderbolts now has $160 million worldwide. It was made at a budget of $180, so it's at just under that production budget back. It has a while to go for profitability. However, the new releases coming out next week are not huge, wide release, marketable releases, so I have a feeling we might get the same exact top 5 next week, being completely honest with you. And I think that bodes well for Thunderbolts. Sinners now has $237 million worldwide, 179 of that being domestic. Holy shit. On a production budget of 90, it's at 2.6. Every dollar made from this point out's profit. Fuck you, Variety. That's all I heard. A Minecraft movie has made $874 million worldwide. Holy shit. On a budget of 150, that's at 5.8 times the budget. Sinners, Minecraft. DeLuca, Abdi. That's all I'm hearing, baby. That's all I'm hearing.
Oh my god, I think the Smartless podcast with them came out today. I need to watch it or listen to it.
I need to too.
I saw that they were next on the guest list and I freaked out. I was like, man, they are getting that PR. They are getting that job security.
Oh yeah. The Accountant 2 now has $66 million worldwide on a budget of 80. It's still at 0.8 times the budget. Unless there's some miracle that happens with Accountant 2, it will unfortunately be a money loser, which is a shame because I really like the movie and I love the first one as well. But I bet it does well on streaming like the first one did. Until Dawn has made $34 million worldwide, 34.7 on a budget of 15. It's at 2.3, so it might squeak past profitability, but you can definitely tell that the studio, Sony, was hoping for more than that. For sure.
I didn't realize it was that low of a budget for Until Dawn.
Oh, yeah. No, David F. Sandberg, man, he don't play. He can do budgets on anything.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty
Anyways, good. Nicholas, it is now time for our predictions for next week.
I mean, I think it's going to be a boring week, but I think I'm in agreement with you. I think it's going to be exactly this 5 as they are.
I'm going to do one change.
All right, what do you got?
In the 5th spot, I'm going to put Fight or Flight.
Okay, so you're doing Thunderbolts, Sinners. What is it? Accountant 2?
No, Minecraft Accountant 2.
Minecraft. Accountant 2. Sorry, the table's being weird.
You're good.
And then Fight or Flight?
Mm-hmm.
What is that?
The new Josh Hartnett action movie.
Oh. Well, hold on.
I think it has more than 3 million in it. That's why I'm saying that.
No, I think I'm gonna stick with the same top 5 as this week.
Listen, my dream is that The Accountant 2 somehow jumps up to the number 2 spot, but I so doubt it.
Sorry, I'm just finishing typing.
You're good. It'll be an interesting week. Dude, and then the week after that, though, is Final Destination. Oh, I can't wait.
All right. Got it.
There you have it, guys. Ooh. In the comments, if you leave your predictions for the box office next week and you're right, we'll shout you out on the next episode of the show, or the next week when we do the next box office. This Friday, there may or may not be a show. We're still working out some schedules and things. It might be a solo show, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But Nick, before we go, do you have anything else you want to add?
No, as always, links to our social media and the audio-only version of the show can be found in the description, as well as links to the sources for the articles, this one just being the Wall Street Journal article. Mm-hmm. And if you have not already, we have two Thunderbolts reviews on the channels. We have a spoiler and a spoiler-free review, so if you have not already, please go ahead and check those out. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the movie as well.
Absolutely, and as always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.